G'day, Keithy here. Thanks for joining me again. It's good to see you. So today I'm going to sit down and have a chat about this here chainsaw. It's a Ryobi 14-inch 36 volt chainsaw. Not just your ordinary chainsaw either. It takes a lot of consideration before you go in and buy something like this that is electric, especially when you're out in the middle of nowhere at the old farm here. So sit back, grab yourself a drink, cup of coffee, and we'll have a bit of a talk, not a chalk, about the Ryobi 36 volt chainsaw. Well, we couldn't go without checking this out.
Right, tearing up tires now. G'day, Keithy here. G'day.
So I'll start you off with a little bit of history. And sorry if you see a mosquito flying across the screen in front of you. There's a few of them here at the moment. This weather, it was sunny before when I started using the saw. And now, believe it or not, it's overcast. It might even rain. So the mozzies have come out in force and they're even attacking me. Anyway, we're here to talk about this bad boy, the Ryobi 14-inch 36 volt chainsaw. Now I've had the Ryobi 36 volt 14-inch chainsaw for about 6 years now. This one though, I've only had it for a month or so. Why have I had it for a month? Well, it actually is quite an interesting story. It's a little bit of a love story, if you would. So my first 14-inch Ryobi 36 volt chainsaw is now back in the hands of Ryobi, believe it or not, and it's not because it broke down. There was nothing wrong with it. Sorry if I look away, I've got mozzies that I'm attacking here. No, not at all. So you'll notice underneath the bottom of this Ryobi 14-inch 36 volt chainsaw is a 6 amp hour 36 volt battery. Now that 36 volt battery there is not the problem, but I do have a 4 amp hour 36 volt battery, which is smaller in size than that one. Actually, it's the same size as the old 36 volt batteries that came with all the Ryobi gear. If you've had Ryobi gear for a long time, you'll know what they look like. Now the one in particular that I'm describing here was a 2.6 amp hour battery, and it's the one that I used to use in my 36 volt chainsaw. Unfortunately, that battery came to the end of its life. It was about 8 years old. It was a fairly old battery, and the time came to get a new battery. So I went into Ryobi and I said, look, I need a battery that's the same size as this for my 36 volt chainsaw. So they were really helpful. They sorted me out with this 4 amp hour battery. So it was bigger than the old one by a little bit. Obviously the 2 amp hour battery of the new 36 volt range just wasn't quite enough to run this saw. You would get a couple of cuts and you'd be game over. So I had to get the 4 amp battery. Got home, pulled this lovely new battery out, ready to chuck it in the chainsaw, and unfortunately the shape has changed in all of the Ryobi's 36 volt battery range. It's just like a midlife update, I guess you'd say. And the 4 amp hour battery didn't actually fit into the chainsaw. So that was a bit of a sad moment right there, and I thought to myself, what am I going to do? I've got this lovely new battery that I can't use in my chainsaw. Now, I've got quite a lot of Ryobi equipment. If you've seen my previous videos, I've got all kinds of mower and whippersnipper and blowers, all kinds of things like that. I've got tons and tons of Ryobi stuff, and I'm not sponsored. This is all bought by me. So I thought the next best thing would be to talk to Ryobi about it and see what they could do, given that the new battery would fit into the other stuff that I've got. But it essentially made the chainsaw null and void. I couldn't use it because I didn't have a battery that would now fit it. My old shape batteries had all passed away. They'd all done their time, you know, and I think 7 years is pretty good out of a 2.6 amp hour battery, or 2.7, whatever it was. Anyway, long story short, Ryobi said to me, look, Keithy, we'll look after you, mate. Take your chainsaw into Bunnings, and they'll replace it like for a brand new 14-inch 36 volt chainsaw. Now the difference between this one and the one that I took into Bunnings, and I'll show you some photos of that one, is that the battery on the new one is actually below, and it's sort of got that headroom for the bigger batteries, the bigger Ryobi batteries, whereas as you'll see in these photos, the bigger batteries don't fit into the spot on the old 36 volt range. So that was just a design flaw, or maybe not so much of a design flaw as it was just things that were updated with Ryobi that weren't quite going to work with the older tools. So thank you very much, Ryobi, for coming to the party there. What is a great chainsaw, what was a great chainsaw, still is a great chainsaw. So basically I've gone like for like, 14-inch chainsaw for 14-inch chainsaw. And what a better way to run the new one in than to go and cut a bit of timber up. So as you see here, we've got quite a bit of timber. I did this one on the 4 amp hour battery. It still had plenty left in reserve. There's tons of timber here. There's even more timber over behind you, which you can't see. All about, actually it's this size timber, all parked up over behind the camera now. I just couldn't move it. There's quite a lot of it. So this is the bigger of the two piles, I guess you'd say. And all done on the 4 amp hour battery. Now, why am I here spruiking this Ryobi 36 volt stuff? I mean, you could go out and get yourself a Stihl or a Honda or whatever, petrol powered chainsaw. But I mean, what if you can't get petrol close by where you live? Or what if you've got some other Ryobi tools? Perhaps there's a reasoning there for actually owning this 36 volt chainsaw. So I'm going to take you through why I like this one and why I reckon you should get one as well. Here he is, the 36 volt saw. What's the first thing I like about it? Okay, one hand, it's heavy. Don't get me wrong, it weighs what a chainsaw should weigh. It's got a fair bit of weight about it. It's not too heavy, but it still gives you a bit of a go here. It's balanced. I'm holding it with one hand and it's balanced. It's nice and balanced, so I can move it backwards and forwards using one hand like that, which is great. Obviously, when you're using it, you're going to hold it with your You're going to hold it with your preferential hand. The other one puts it on the go signal. Fantastic, and it's very easy to maneuver up and down as you need to. Another advantage, and I just spoke about it briefly, was the weight. Now this thing here, I don't know what it weighs. Maybe 10 kilos. It's a good weight. It's quite heavy. Why is weight a good thing? Well, on a chainsaw, when you're cutting something down, it means that you don't have to press down on what you're cutting through. If it's got a reasonable weight about it, it will self-cut to a degree. That's the last thing you want to do when you've got a chainsaw, is force the blade down while you're cutting, because that puts you at risk if something happens or as it lets go. You don't have to put all your force into it. Another thing I like, and this is probably the best thing, is the noise. So being electric, it's obviously not very loud like your 2-stroke petrol and your 4-stroke petrol chainsaws. They're generally reasonably loud, and not only that, you've got to take fuel and whatnot with you to keep those things running. With this bad boy, all you need is your Ryobi battery. It's very easy to fit, very easy to remove. You can put your other batteries in there as well. If you've got the 36 volt range, they all fit. In she goes, and away you go. I do like as well that it's got a safety, so I can't just pull the trigger and cut my feet off. Just like a normal chainsaw as well, we have got to pull back in order to operate the machine. With it forwards like that, nothing happens. When you've engaged the machine, ready to start cutting down some timber, pull back and then on the trigger and away you go. Another good thing about the Ryobi gear is that it is a variable speed machine. So how hard you pull the lever is how fast the blade is going to spin. You can start off slow and you can go all the way through to full throttle, just in increments if you need to. Like a normal chainsaw, it's also got the stop when you close the gate. Very good little safety added out of there. As you'll see here, I have the 14-inch 356mm. That's a very common size, the chain on this one. It's a good compact size for a chainsaw, but Ryobi says this will do a 300mm piece of timber. As you can see back here, I've got quite a couple of big pieces here. I'm not going cutting these massive gum trees or anything like that with this, but I'm sure that one right down there, it'll cut through no worries, and I have cut through stuff very similar to that. But this stuff here, all of this timber here, plus more behind, including this big one here, which would be, it'd be coming very close to 200mm, maybe 250. It cut through every one of these, no worries on the first cut, all the way down. Like any chainsaw, it needs maintenance as well, so it's got actual chainsaw blades that you can go to Bunnings and buy, or wherever you like to go and get all your blades from. And also, like any other blade, they do need maintenance. So I'll take you up and I'll show you what I normally do after I've cut down a bit of timber to keep the chainsaw in good condition. Okay, so we got ourselves a 20 centimetre bit of timber here. We'll cut through him and show you what this 36 volt Ryobi chainsaw can do. That's not a bad little effort given the blade actually needs a little bit of a sharpen now. After cutting all of this stuff down, that's just a demonstration of what it will go through if you need it to make a cut. Before I clean it, I thought I'd show you the entourage that I've got with this chainsaw. So this is obviously the cover. Goes over the front here, slides on very nicely. Take the bar oil with me as well, because you need that if you want to cut something down. If you don't lube this thing up, you'll kill the saw in no time flat. A little bit of a rag there, just an old singlet. It's good for cleaning your hands if you touch the oil and anything else like that when you're cleaning up the chainsaw itself. And this brush. Now this comes in very handy as well when you've just finished cutting, which we obviously have. I've done all of the stuff you saw down there. It's very easy to clean the chainsaw properly if you do it with a brush, and you can take everything apart and like any other normal chainsaw and give it a good clean down, which is what we're about to do now. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this battery out. We don't need a battery in it in order to clean it. So the first task is to give it a good clean down once you finish using it. That way it's good to go next time, and I'll also sharpen this blade afterwards. I like to start on the outside first, get it looking nice and clean. It's not going to look brand new forever, so don't be afraid if you get little bits of dirt and dust and whatnot on the chainsaw, because at the end of the day it's a tool that's been designed to work cutting timber, and that's exactly what it's getting paid to do. You're never going to polish it up and make it look brand new every time you use it, otherwise you'd spend hours and hours absolutely doing that. What I like to do is the outside first. As you've seen, it took me about 3 seconds to do that. Then we move on to the front here. So simple, just to untwist this bad boy here. And I like to take the chain back a little bit so you can see it's sagging now. And then you undo your little black knobby thing, whatever you like to call it. Almost there. You saw a fair bit of all of the dirt and dust and whatnot coming out from inside there. Oh, look at that, that's pretty filthy. And this is a big use that it just had, hence why I now need to sharpen this. After every use I normally give it a little bit of a sharpen, so I'll do that as well. But first we need to clean all of this down. I like to take the chain off and do the body of the chainsaw first, so we'll do that. It's not very hard to do because it hasn't really got any hidden sections. You just get under here with a brush. Now this one here is one that I will never use with the house again. I bought it specifically to do the chainsaw work. So this has done my other chainsaw as well as this one. Doesn't look too bad given the work that it's done. But it's a good idea to get everything you can off here, all of the big sticky stuff, so that next time you want to use the saw, everything spins and moves as it should. It's pretty easy, it's a very basic job. That only took less than a minute to do then. Give it a good brush. Done. Next step, I'll move into the little cover that goes over the chain. Give him a little brush. How easy is this? This is not even a 5-minute job to completely clean the chainsaw. And you can see why this brush is a little bit dirty, because you're using bar oil on your saw. So it's going to get dirty and dusty. All right, lives to see another day. It's not perfect, but it's got the lumps and all of the bad stuff out of there, so it is ready to go again. All we have left now is the chain itself. And I like to give it just a little brush, because there's not much else you can do with a chain, let's be honest. Just give him a little bit of a brush down. It should still be lubricated because you have oil in your chainsaw. And that is clean and ready to go again. I'll put him down here, not on the grass obviously. That's not good for a chain. That's not good for a chain that you've just cleaned. And here we go. All the blade can be cleaned off. You see there's quite a few chunks of stuff on here. I made the mistake, well it's not a mistake, I needed to cut down some palm trees. And that's where a lot of this yucky stuff has come from. It doesn't take very long to clean it. But you can see there's some bits in the top here. Make sure you give him a little bit of a hit like that. Get him looking nice and clean. You wouldn't know this was new. It's pretty dirty, but that there, I like to just give it a tiny bit of a squiggle here. Yep, see a little bit more has popped out there, we'll get him. Give it a little bit of a movement forwards and a little bit of a movement backwards. If there's anything that you need to get, you'll soon see it. A little bit in the eye there, that's always good, isn't it? Given I have my safety glasses on my head. Squeeze him back. Oh, a couple of little tiny bits in here. We're done. So now all I've got to do is put this back together and it's good to go for next time, almost. There's one more thing I need to do. All right, there we go. So you see I've got the chain on. Usually you get about 10 millimeters of free play in it. So that's still firm. That's not going to come out. It's got enough room to stretch. And that way if it gets hot, it's got enough room to move around a little bit as well. There's only one thing left to do now, and this is ready to go again. And that is to fill up the bar oil. Let's drop the bar oil in. So that's the Ryobi 14-inch 36-volt chainsaw. I hope you enjoyed it. Why did I do this video? Well, it's something new for people who have lived with the petrol and the two-stroke chainsaws all their life. It's an alternative with something that you can just recharge and go again. It's quiet, as you heard, and it's cut all of this on one battery, no worries. So if you've got a bit of work to do, then you can definitely put the Ryobi chainsaw to the test and come out with all of this kind of stuff cut down. It operates the same as any other chainsaw, so you can't really go too far wrong. Just like any chainsaw, it needs maintenance as well, so you've got to sharpen your blade and top up your bar oil. But other than that, it's quiet. It's just as heavy as a normal chainsaw, if not maybe a little bit lighter, and it's fantastic to use for any kind of little chainsaw job you want. If you wanted a chainsaw that's bigger than this one, Ryobi actually do sell one that's bigger. They also sell a smaller one. These are perfect for all kinds of things. This one, for example, has been to Cape York a number of times. I actually take it in an old esky. I take the bar off and I can put the chainsaw and the bar together in the old esky. I can chuck it in my kit when I go camping and take it up to Cape York and anywhere I really want to go, which makes it very fantastic. It makes it versatile, and I can charge it from my car as well, as I've got the charging point in my car. So if that's something that might interest you, that's another great little thing about the Ryobi. It doesn't take very long to charge up the batteries. I use the 4 amp hour and the 6 amp hour Ryobi 36 volt batteries with this one, and it loves every one of them. It did all of this plus more with the 4 amp hour battery, and it had room to go. So yeah, highly recommended. If you're looking for a chainsaw and you want to try something new, then have a go at the Ryobi 36 volt range. Like I said before, my other 36 volt one lasted perfectly fine, and it's 5 years old at the moment. I had to take it back in because the new batteries don't fit into the older 36 volt chainsaw. So this is essentially the brand new version of the 5-year-old chainsaw that I had. There were no problems with the other saw, just the fact that I couldn't fit the new batteries into that. So thank you, Ryobi, for coming to the party there and putting in a little bit more space underneath to fit your batteries when you want to use this chainsaw. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, do all the usual stuff there, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. That'll do, donkey, that'll do.